There's some gospel passages that really stand out. One is when there's this guy goes to Jesus, and apparently the guy was very wealthy, this young man, and says, hey, what do I have to do to what do I have to do to be a good person, or live eternal, get eternal life? And Jesus said, well, just live the 10 Commandments. And the guy said, well, I already do that. I live the 10 Commandments. What else do I have to do? And Jesus said, well, if you really want to, gain eternal life, you've got to sell everything you have, pick up your cross, and follow me. And it said the passage reads that the rich man the man walked away very sad because he was very rich, whereas he couldn't do it. So Christ was telling the guy, look, if you really want to follow me, this is what you got to do: sell what you have, get rid of everything, and come and follow me. Just be simple about it. Just kind of give up the stuff and make it something. Don't make it something complicated. Just give up what you're doing here, give up what your goods, your life, and come and serve these people and follow me. And Christ's mission really was to serve the least of these, serve the poorest of the poor, and take care of people that don't have someone else to take care of them. So kind of when I see that, it just resonates with me very strongly. My name is Dr. Tom Catena, and I'm the lone doctor and physician at the Mother of Mercy Hospital. We're located in Gidel, which is in the Nuba Mountains. The Nuba Mountains are a disputed territory on the border between North and South Sudan. The Nuba are farmers. 99.9999% are subsistence farmers. So almost all of our patients that come are subsistence farmers. Very simple, very humble, hardworking. They're still very traditional in their thinking and their beliefs about disease and health. I mean, they're not westernized people by any stretch. They don't have a Western concept of disease. They don't know about the germ theory and all these sort of things. They have different levels of healthcare. They have the Kujur, who's kind of like a witch doctor who deals more with, the sort of almost a spiritual side of things. Well, you're sick because you have a grudge against this person. That's why you're sick, or this person has put a spell on you, and that's why you're sick. And you've got to reverse that and do this thing to get that spell taken off. They work in that kind of realm. You also have some of the local healers are sort of traditional healers. They use some herbs, these sort of things. I haven't found them to be very effective, to be honest with you. Then another level is just like the grandmother with their home remedies. And these in general are very harmful. They do, like for instance, like an example, they have this idea in their mind that almost all diseases they call yellow fever. Yellow fever has been there in the mountains, but it's been quite a while since there was an outbreak. But somebody's got a simple malaria, or they have back pain, or they say, no, I've got yellow fever. And the way they treat yellow fever is they burn the person. It looks like a cigarette burn. They burn in very specific areas. Here on the wrist, they burn here on the elbow, on the shoulder, on the back of the neck, sometimes on the abdomen. So every person in Nuba, you look at them and you're like, God, who's doing like cigarette burns? They look exactly like cigarette burns. Children come in just roasted with these burns. This is standard treatment. And what they often do is they'll do that first. Even now with the hospitals there, they often do that. They live, 20 minutes from us. They'll burn the child or the adult first. Then when they see they're not getting better, they come to the hospital. Slowly, it's improving a bit. We're trying to make some inroads slowly, without trying to turn the culture upside down and trying to offer them an alternative. Since we've opened, I've been pretty much the only doctor. We've had a couple doctors come now and again, maybe for a month here, 3 weeks there, but there's been no other consistent doctor there during this time. I grew up in Amsterdam, New York. Large Catholic family, seven of us all together. Pretty rowdy household growing up, a lot of fun. Yeah, pretty active. You know, I initially studied mechanical engineering in college, and before I graduated from college, I had the wish to do some kind of mission work. So my initial desire was to do mission work when I was in college. This was to serve overseas in some sort of mission capacity. So I graduated with my degree in mechanical engineering and realized there was nothing available. There's no mission work you could do as a mechanical engineer. I thought, well, I should go into medicine. It just sort of popped into my head that would make a lot more sense. I went to medical school on a Navy scholarship, and they paid for the medical school. The payback was I would owe them year for year. I figured if I don't take a scholarship, I've got to borrow the money from medical school. So when I finish all my training, I'll have this huge debt to pay off, and it'd be very difficult to do mission work if I'm saddled with this huge debt. So I thought, let me take the scholarship. I'll do my time in the Navy, then when I finish my Navy commitment, I'll be debt-free, and I'm free to do what I want. And that's exactly how things worked out. Most days, say during the week, I get up around 5:30. There's a mass at 6:30, a daily mass at 6:30 at the Father's. There's a small chapel at the Father's compound, and then head down to the hospital by around 7:30. I'll start the inpatient rounds. So rounds are when you go and see all the inpatients. This takes a while. I mean, I'm there from 7:30. Sometimes they can go till 12, sometimes 12:30, sometimes 1 o'clock, depending on how many inpatients there are. Sometimes there are 300, sometimes 350, sometimes 400. And then when I finish them, there's usually maybe 1 or 2 minor operations to do. I go from there up to the clinic and then start seeing the outpatients. Usually stay in the outpatient clinic, seeing those patients until we finish, which is 5:30, 6 usually. And then during that time, of course, if an emergency comes, if someone needs an operation, a C-section, people come with all kinds of problems, bowel obstruction, a cesarean section. Stop clinic, run to the operating room, do the operation, come back to clinic, just kind of bounce back and forth like that. The only difference out of that schedule now is Wednesday and Friday are the main operating room days. Usually we finish clinic by 5:30. Then evening time is kind of more administrative stuff. Go through some emails and check on the drug supply, pharmacy stuff, physical plant problems. There's always a problem with the generator, with the solar system, with the water system. Try to scout those things out. Have supper around 7:30, 8, and then kind of on call. I'm just on call from that period on. The calls are variable. Some seasons, like recently, they were very busy. I mean, I didn't sleep at all. So the whole night, 3 or 4 nights during the week, just up and down. Kid comes in with diarrhea, go see him, come back to your bed, lay down for half an hour, come and get you again. 2 more kids have come in, go back. Somebody on the ward, one of the post-operative patients is having a problem, come down to see him, go down and see him, try to sort him out. So it's busy. Call at night, and then the next day you're back to the same thing. The life there is not bad. The work is extremely difficult. Hours are long. I'd say the most difficult part of the job, biggest hardship for me is dealing with deaths, dealing with patients who die. They're excruciating. The only way you can describe it is excruciating. It's physically painful when someone dies. And you know, as a doctor, every doctor has, during some time in their career, they have patients who die. I think probably the difference for us is, since I'm by myself as a sole physician, I feel responsible for all the patients there. And we have a lot. We have 350 patients inpatients at one point. Many times we have 350, sometimes 400 inpatients. So I feel responsible for all these people. And often if there's a problem, if there's a complication, there's no one else to consult. I don't have someone else that can give an opinion. If there's an operation, I've got to do it. I don't have someone that can help me out with the operation or that can give another opinion. We certainly lose more patients than you would in the U.S. Still, I think the number is very low compared to what we have to work with in the state that most of our patients come in with. But it's very difficult to lose a patient. And it happens fairly routinely. I mean, much more than you would, say, if you worked in the US or another country. And you have no one else to share that. You can't share that burden with another doctor. And that makes it more difficult. And difficult to deal psychologically. But you've got to get over that because there's a line of people waiting to see you. So you've got to get beyond that. You've got to cross that psychological hurdle. Maybe, try to figure out why the person died and try to learn from it, but then move beyond that. Because if you don't, you get paralyzed and you can't see other patients that you need to take care of. I think I've been given everything in this life. I mean, all the opportunities from being born into this family, all the chances for education, everything. So I feel in some way I should pay something back. That's part of it. I feel I owe something to even this guard a bit. That's part of it. I don't say it out of a sense of guilt. Like I feel guilty for being given everything, but there's some reason why I was given all these opportunities. Really, it's rare, and I see the guys in the Nuba, they've been given nothing. I mean, to finish primary school is a huge deal. They get nothing, their parents are dead, and there's all kinds of conflict and problems. So part of it is that, it's just a desire to pay back, give something back. Another, of course, is from Christianity. I mean, just from the Gospels, what Christ tells us to do, take care of the least of these. I think he was serious when he said this. Like when I read that, it sort of has a meaning for me. The initial struggle in the 90s had a little more of an Islamic flavor. There was a real jihad pronounced against the Nuba, and one of the architects of that was this guy Hassan al-Turabi, who's still alive. He's a real intellectual guy, kind of an evil genius. He went around and talked to these different imams, and some imams said, no, that's evil, you can't do that. And then finally got some imam to sign off on it. You just need one guy to sign off saying, yeah, this jihad is legitimate. And he says it's legitimate because in the Nuba, you've got Christians, and you can, of course, kill them. You've got animists, they're non-believers, you can kill them. Yes, there are Muslims there, but they practice apostasy. So there's a little more of a religious flavor then. There's more of this Islamic fervor then. They would take people and force them. There was forced Islamization, forced Arabization. So a lot of it now is kind of evolving into more of an ethnic. Arab against African is the more. They'll still whip up Islamist rhetoric. I mean, I think to try to convince anybody in the north to come and fight the Nuba, they'll couch it. This is jihad. These are infidels, and the whole program is one of starvation. Why else would you bomb the fields where people are trying to cultivate? Why else would you bomb civilians? So I mean, they know that when you bomb an area, you can only kill so many people with the bombs. More effectively, is you drive them off the land, you mess up their way of life, drive them up in the hills, you starve them. So it does one of two things: either kill them through starvation, or you drive them off the land into a refugee camp. So you empty the area of the population, which I think is their goal. They're trying to. I mean, I think they're trying to wipe the people out. I think they just don't want. They don't want the Nuba there anymore. I think they will never. I think there won't ever come a time where they'll accept them, give them their rights, give them equal opportunities, all those things. The Bashir government, the Khartoum government, manages to do a lot of these things just under the radar. So they make it a small blip, they have a small condemnation, then it goes away again, and people's attention is somewhere else. The government hasn't done enough. It could be, I don't mean something militarily, but something very simple, really push Sudan to open a humanitarian corridor. There's not been any humanitarian relief allowed into the Nuba Mountains since the fighting started. And I think some of the bigger actors in this play could push for these things. This is a very simple, straightforward thing. I don't want to paint the picture for you. Imagine you're in Iowa, you're a farmer, your crop failed, you have no food, you go to Safeway. You go to Safeway and there's no food in Safeway. There's no green vegetables. There's nothing else. There aren't 10 varieties of cereal. There's absolutely nothing. You go in there, there's a big store, and you got maybe one leg of a goat hanging up, and that's it. You know, this is the reality of the situation there. I think it's hard to wrap your head around it, what it's like. There's actually no food there. So we need money. We need money to buy the sorghum. We need money for these vehicles to transport. All this stuff is expensive. Without it, we can't have a staff. There's no way they can stay there and work without any food. You have to provide for the caretaker who's there. The caretaker can't help you take care of this person. They can't cook for the person if there's no food available. These are all the big money. So the basic things: medicines, supplies, salaries for the staff, and food. These are the four big items that we need money for. And all this stuff has to come from donations. We're almost wholly donor dependent. You can imagine we had 450 patients, half of whom were wounded. Every one of those needs a gauze, needs to have the wound cleaned and dressed with gauze and a gauze wrap. We've got to buy that in Uganda. We've got to put it on trucks, truck it from Uganda all the way through Sudan up to Ida refugee camp, then get another truck, bring it up to our place, all sort of covertly. This takes a lot of money. It's always a challenge to keep the hospital supplied because the logistics are difficult. We have a lot of people that come from, 7 days, 7 days walk away. I can't how many patients come. I say, I've been 7 days on the road trying to get here. So we'll start walking from, someplace a couple hundred miles away. I mean, they'll start walking, walk away. Maybe they'll catch a vehicle going, part of the way, get a bit of a ride. It could take them 4, 5, 6, 7 days to reach our place. It's not unusual. The patients tell us stories all the time. Even the rainy season, they try to come, they get stuck in the rain, sleep on the side of the road. I mean, it's unbelievable what they put up with just to reach us. It's unbelievable. You really feel, you must feel bad, You feel humbled by, because you really want to do something. Someone comes and tells you, it's like I'm walking 7 days to get here. And you feel terrible if you really can't do something very, good for this person. Yeah, I can't imagine doing any other work that would be more rewarding. There's a feeling you get from doing this kind of work. And then, also, I was always fascinated by the lives of the saints, especially, say, St. Francis of Assisi was sort of my personal favorite. And the life he led. He was not a priest or even a brother. He was never ordained. He was a layperson. Kind of tossed away. He was son of a rich merchant, and just kind of tossed that out. And he wasn't a medical person. He just kind of walked around preaching the gospel and just lived a very simple life. Just kind of that has always been appealing to me, to sort of chuck all this stuff out, and just be simple and just sort of follow Christ the best way you think you can do it, whatever you feel called to do it. And then I don't know. Now of course I've gotten to Nuba and I've gotten very attached to these people. So there's also a bit of attachment now. I've gotten quite attached to the people there. So to leave now, I think it'd be very difficult. I have no interest in leaving. I feel like I'm kind of meant to be there, and I feel comfortable in that environment, and I've grown attached to the community and the people there. For me, I think it's individual. I'm not saying everybody should do this, but just for me, it kind of resonates with me. I just feel something inside that says, yeah, this is kind of right for you, and, how Christ is calling you to live your life. And the fact that you can do something. Whatever seriously, whatever I feel I can do is God-given. I'm not saying that in an arrogant way at all. I think the only reason we were able to make it is through the grace of God, because we had a period of time when the war first started, when all the expatriate staff were evacuated. Our anesthetist, our lab person, our pharmacy person, our midwife, our nurses, our main nurses on the ward, they were all evacuated. So we were left with just us three, myself and two sisters, and the Nuba nurses who were on the job trained. They weren't trained nurses. And we were like, gosh, what do we do now? You know, all the trained people have left, including our anesthetist. I'd never done anesthesia before. And that's the main part of an operation. If you can't properly anesthetize somebody, you might cause more harm than good. And then they left on June 16, 2011, at like 5 in the morning. They got out early. Their vehicle was darkened. They went in the dark because it was worried about they would be bombed at the airstrip. They just kind of took off. At like 8 o'clock, we started getting all these casualties that had been bombed. We had like several children that were bombed. One had arm half sliced off, another kid had his hand sliced off. People had legs chopped off. People were hit in the abdomen. So like, okay, we got to give these people a general anesthetic. So just went in, intubated the person, gave the general anesthetic. I mean, I know my abilities, and you know, I know I'm not Superman, and I was able to do these things, and I think I was able to do them only through the grace of God, and I say that unashamedly and without reservation. I mean, I really felt that by the grace of God, we were able to keep the hospital going, despite losing all these people, despite reams of people coming in with horrible wounds. And we were able to manage, and people got better. And yeah, I see it as somewhat miraculous.